first episode was so good, we decided to come back here. Welcome back to the Jack Doyle Podcast with Matt Taylor. I'm Matt Taylor. That is 9-year Colt and 2-time Pro Bowler tight end Jack Doyle. He is back for the second week here of this podcast. 33-8, my friend.
Here we go,
That's
baby.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, what a start, man. Makes it a lot easier to talk about him, right?
No question about it. I mean, that's why we come in here with a little pep in our step, talking about a Week 1 win for the Colts for the first time since 2013. You watched the game at home. I mean, how many fist bumps did we have throughout the course of that Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, it was endless, man. What a lot of fun that was. And just the early success and then the sustained success through the game, you can't ask for anything more, and what a great start.
Yeah, big show here today. We're going to talk about how it looked for the Colts, why they dominated the Miami Dolphins, Daniel Jones' debut, how sharp he looked for the Colts. We'll talk about that defense on the other side of the ball, the debut nature scheme-wise of Lou Anarumo and the 3 takeaways and the 3 sacks and all the disruption and all the different layers of the defense. And we're also going to break down the contributions from all the newbies for the Colts, guys they brought in the draft, guys they brought in free agency. It looked pretty sharp. And that's what I'm most excited about, Jack, is we've been talking about all offseason and probably even more so specifically since the Colts decided to make the announcement to name Daniel Jones as the starting quarterback. Sunday was a big manifest of what it could look like, the potential of the team with a progressive, aggressive, proactive defense and a quarterback that's going to be sharp, efficient, completion percentage, pre-snap recognition. It was just a big conglomerate of all the potential, and it was really good to see the Colts dominate the way they did.
Yeah, it was great to see that. And like we talked about last week with Daniel, he's done everything right to this point, right? He's earned the trust of his teammates. He's earned the respect of his teammates with the way he's worked, the way he's prepared. And then you saw it in Week 1. You saw it come to fruition. We said that was the next step. Let's do it on Sundays. And he just looks in such great control of the offense, right? There was multiple times where he's checking into different stuff and getting them in the right play and getting easy completions. And I think the Colts and Shane did a great job of setting him up early to get him in a rhythm. And set the team up for a great day.
Well, it was a great day. I mean, it really was. Let's talk about that. I mean, first of all, the weather was Chamber of Commerce. Touchdown Town was rolling. The tailgate scene downtown Indianapolis was on fire. You could just sense a hope, a renewed energy. It's a fresh start, right? I mean, everybody's got, this, I call it the September optimism around the team, right? And it was a butt whooping. It really was. I mean, I can't think of a better day at Lucas Oil Stadium. I mean, we were digging through notes, right? The last time the Colts led by 20 points, the last time they led by 20 points at halftime, the last time they held a team under 180 yards, which was the case for the Dolphins towards the end of that game. I mean, I just thought it was a Colts celebration of a lot of frustration and things that were kind of boiling up to the edge. It really spilled over and just such a great day and a great showing by everybody involved in the organization, and certainly the fan base basked in it too.
Yeah, like you said, I think everybody felt that. The players felt that. The coaches felt that. The front office felt that. The fans felt that, right? Yeah. And it was just like, man, we've kind of been through it a little bit, and it all just clicked on Sunday, and that was so fun to see. And there's nothing better when the roof's open and it's beautiful weather. I mean, the atmosphere was incredible. You just can't beat it. That's what football is right there. That's football, baby.
So the last time the Colts won a Week 1 game, season opener, was Jack Doyle, my man, your rookie season in the NFL, 2013. By the way, that was over 4,300 days ago. Not that anybody's counting.
No.
But, I mean, as a player, when you talk about trying to get off to a fast start, that's what training camp is all about. I mean, it's not Week 1, it's not about the Dolphins all day, every day, but it's sort of in the back of your mind all training camp long, right? We got to get ready for the season opener. And you come out and you put the game plan and execute it as well as that team did. I mean, how much confidence is this team rolling with right now after what they did on Sunday?
Yeah, the confidence, is so much right now. And I think, like you said, it's always in the back of your mind. As soon as that schedule gets released, you know who you're playing, and you're thinking of it, you're waking up in training camp, you're thinking of who you're going to go against, and you're just preparing. You're not over-preparing, right? I think that's what the Colts did such a great job of. They didn't seem over-prepared and overthinking, right? They kept it simple in the offense and the plays they ran and kept the scheme simple. But that's all they needed, right? That confused, Tua with the defense, with the schemes they were running. And then offense, we had completions and early completions and And they were just simple concepts, right? And that's a credit to Daniel getting us in the right play, right? And getting his guys the ball and let them do something with it after.
Take us to the locker room, though. Like, after a game like that, do you feel, is it a combination of relief? Or is it a combination of confidence? Not only did you win week one after all the buildup in the offseason, but you won week one after 11, 12 years of frustration and the fans kind of piling on and the expectations going into the season.
Yeah, I think relief is the right word for like you said, to snap the streak. I think relief is what a lot of guys are feeling. It's what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I remember I was texting guys.
You're just tired of talking about it.
Yeah, thank you for snapping the streak.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying to guys. So it was a ton of fun, man, and you're building that confidence, and you put all that work in, and it's for the 5 minutes in the locker room, right? I remember, you spoke to the last time we won a season opener, and it was my first game, and we were playing the Raiders.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to that locker room and it just being like how excited everybody was. And it was like, man, I was like, wow. And that's when I first learned, it's really hard to win in the NFL, and so much work goes into it. So let's celebrate it for, the 5 minutes in the locker room. I think Chuck Pagano always said it. You do all that work for 5 minutes in the locker room, and then you move on, right? And now it's time to get ready for the Broncos. But the relief of snapping the streak, I think that's what a lot of guys are feeling. And then we come into the Broncos, and it's, you played them last year, a little bit of a revenge game there, right? So the confidence, and you're getting right back to, you're carrying that confidence, but you got to get right back to work.
Hey, you talk about 5 minutes. Is it really only 5 minutes you allow yourself to feel good?
Yeah, maybe that's an exaggeration, but with your guys, right? Because it's 5 minutes of celebrating with your guys, and then you kind of go on your way. And
you're taking your shower, getting ready.
Yeah, you're doing your media. Then
Sure.
you go get dinner with your family,
right.
and then you wake up Monday, come in here, watch the film, and get a little introduction to the next opponent, and it's time to move on. It's time to move on. It's 17-week grind, man, and you don't have time to sit back and enjoy wins like that.
As a player, did you allow yourself to enjoy the win on through the night, or when the dust kind of settles on the day and you're maybe watching Sunday Night Football, do you already peek ahead at Denver?
Yeah, you already are. You're always looking to what that team, who you're playing the next week. You see what they did the week before, who they played, so you're kind of preparing yourself. I didn't get into the film until Tuesday nights, but especially when you play, when the year starts stacking in and how much you've played, you start to know who you're going to go against and what's going to cause your problems. So the stress starts coming early in the week, right? But that's fun, man. That's what makes it such a great challenge and so enjoyable.
It's such a bottom line hardcore business, That's what I've always just picked up over the years, is just how intense it is. And you talked about those 5 minutes. It sounds cliche, but it's on to the next one. It is so bottom line. And the bottom line in this game against the Dolphins, Jack, the Colts scored on all 7 of their drives. Okay, they had the ball 7 times, scored points every time they had the ball. The Colts became the first team since at least 1978 to score on every possession of a game. It was offensive utopia. Daniel Jones looked great. They had no turnovers. They didn't officially punt in the game. They did, but it got a penalty on the Dolphins gave the Colts an automatic first down. The Colts had the ball for over 38 minutes of time of possession. That was such a problem last year in terms of being able to sustain. They had 27 first downs in the game, most first downs the Colts had in a game since 2022. The offense also recorded 3 scoring drives of at least 14 plays. So not only are you breaking their will, but you're capping those drives off with scores to punctuate it even further. So when you went back and you watched the film from Sunday's game, why were the Colts so stinking dominant in this game on offense?
Efficient on first down, right? That's the first thing I noticed. And that's how you, like you said, dominate. You want to dominate time possession. You want to get first downs. You want to sustain these long drives because, like you said, that breaks the will. When, the offense of the other team is sitting on the sideline, they're losing their rhythm, right?
Yeah.
And you're keeping your rhythm by running these plays. And they were so efficient early in first downs and converted fourth downs. I think that was huge, right? They were aggressive in how they went for the fourth downs and then converting those, right? And that's building the trust from your, player to coach, coach to player, building that trust that hey, we're going to stay out here. We're going to go for it. Coaches believe in you. Mm-hmm. Players, let's convert. I was amazed with how they just kept the efficiency, right? And throughout the whole game and kept their foot down on the gas.
You've been there. You talked about the opposing offense having to sit there and watch their own defense just get grinded down in third down conversion after third down conversion. When you see your defense on the field for 6, 7, 8 minutes. What are you doing as an offensive player to try to stay warm? How hard is that to do, what the Dolphins were going through?
It's very difficult, right? You're mentally trying to stay sharp, right? And that's really tough to do. Usually you're sitting on the bench, and then it's, when it's your time to go, you get back up. But, when those long drives go, you got to get back up. So it kind of changes your routine, too, and throws everybody off. And you're trying to, you're talking to your teammates. You're trying to get, make sure everybody's staying up and ready to go. And it's just, it's a tough challenge, and you feel that as an offense.
I mean, not to sound funny, but do you tighten up? Do your back kind of tighten up? You got to stretch, you got to move because of how intense that drive is when the defense is getting pounded a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, especially later in the career. Let's get the heat pack out. It's things
Where's
like
the chiropractor?
Yeah, we got to stay loose. Let's find Marcus and get my back aligned. But you really do feel that, and again, it's the challenge of not only physically but staying mentally sharp and staying into it, and making sure your teammates are staying into it. That was always the challenge.
7 different players for the Colts caught a pass. Daniel Jones looks so sharp. We're going to talk about him in more detail in just a second. But do you think that's what this offense is? This is what we're going to see now for the rest of the season?
Absolutely. That's what I think the Colts are. I think that's what they want to be. And I think that's so tough to defend. If you can do that, and being multiple with how you can attack guys, and it's not just being, all Jonathan Taylor or all Pitt or all Warren. If we can be multiple in the way we attack and playing, sometimes quarterbacks get caught up, I think, when they get stuck with you have wide receiver 1, right? The diva receiver that wants the ball all the time. And the Colts don't have that. Pitt's wide receiver 1, but watch Pitt go in there and block for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
And that dude just loves football and wants to be part of the team. And when you have that, it sets the tone for the rest of the guys. And that's why we have such a, good receiver room and such a great skill group.
No doubt about it. I'm curious, what was the closest game to Sunday that you played in, where everything's just working, right? You never played in a game where you scored on every drive.
Yeah.
But was there a game that sticks out to you where we just can't be stopped today?
The most recent one that comes to mind was the 21 game down in Buffalo.
Yeah.
The Jonathan Taylor 5 touchdowns. So that was everything working on the ground, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many yards he had, but I remember just being like, man, they can't stop us.
5 touchdowns that game.
Yeah, let's keep running the ball down their throat. And there's not a better feeling. And that, again, a little bit of a revenge game for us because, they knocked us out of the playoffs the year before. So that's the first one that comes to mind. And that was, especially, and then being on the road, that makes it even more fun.
Yeah. Silence is golden on the road,
yes.
man. And you had the complete part in doing that. All right, let's go back to Daniel Jones. Again, 75% completion percentage, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 rushing, passer rating of 115. It's not hyperbole. It was one of the better games of his career, and he showed out beautifully with the Colts in his debut. Did you expect to see that, him kind of coming in with a chip on his shoulder, an edge to have career resurgence, be the next version of Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold? That's what he's trying to do, is change the narrative and the perception of his career. And, boy, he's off to a terrific start.
Yeah, I did expect it. I think he's a competitor, right? And any time you get a competitor out there and they want to go prove people wrong, that's a dangerous recipe for the opponent, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Daniel did. But he didn't. And also it's a challenge when you have that chip and you want to do well so bad. But I think he stayed efficient, right, and stayed within himself. And I think that's so important. And that was the credit, to his teammates and to his coaches for getting him in the rhythm, and then he sustained the success.
I've been big on this all off season when you talk about Daniel Jones, especially since the Colts, named him the starter at the end of August. But we knew coming in the book on Daniel Jones, he was going to be accurate, right? He was going to complete passes. He was going to keep the Colts offense on schedule, move the ball, and complete a high percentage of his throws. But as you know, Jack, in every game in the NFL, it comes down to just a handful of plays. And every quarterback, no matter how much talent they have around him, which Daniel Jones does on this team with the great weapons and the tight end and Tyler Warren and the great running back and Jonathan Taylor, you got to win from the pocket, right? You got to make, over the course of 60 minutes, some game-winning throws. Complete 4 to 5 balls that are game-changing moments. 3rd down or red zone, or thread the needle for a huge touchdown pass. He did all of that, right? He pushed the ball down the field, and that was kind of the knock on him in New York. The yards per attempt, the big plays just weren't there over the course of his career with the Giants. He did everything on Sunday. I think his yards per attempt the other day, where it was over 9, one of the best games in his career. I mean, that's what you have to have, I think, to make this offense completely flourish and open up a run game for Jonathan Taylor. It all starts with Daniel Jones and his ability to get the middle of the field going, but also get the yards after the catch plays and also stretch the defense too.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like you said, that opens up Jonathan Taylor, right? That's going to open up the run game. And I love the first offensive play coming out of the second half was the deep ball to Pierce.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just great. Like I don't think Pierce had a catch. He got pass interfered with on the one in the end zone. They didn't call it. But just getting the ball downfield, that's going to open up the stuff underneath. And then he threw a seed to AD on the sideline on a deep out, which was awesome. So, yeah, like you said, you have to be able to do everything. It can't just be all dink and dunk the whole time, right? And being able to spread the ball downfield is going to open up that dink and dunk, but more importantly, it's going to open up Jonathan Taylor in that run game.
I mean, you went back and watched the film. I felt like on Sunday when we're doing play-by-play, I said this phrase or this concept of here's Daniel Jones in the line of scrimmage changing the play or audibling or looking over the defense. How much of his success on Sunday was pre-snap recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. The play that comes to mind when you're talking about, and it was a big play in the second quarter. He recognized cover 0 on a 4th and 2, 4th and 1, whatever it was. We had just gotten to the Dolphins territory and had an easy completion to Downs on the flat, right? Because he recognized what was going and changed the play and moved Pitt out to make sure he had the recognition that he thought he had. And plays like that, it looks like, he just made a simple throw, but it was all the stuff pre-snap to get to that simple throw to convert a big 4th down.
Big conversions the entire game, some of them to your guy, number 84 here. Let's talk about Tyler Warren. What a debut. 7 catches, 76 yards. He was targeted on 3 of Daniel Jones' first 6 pass attempts, 3 catches on that opening drive that resulted in a field goal for the Colts. The last time the Colts had a tight end with at least 75 yards receiving in a game, Jelani Woods, back in 2022. So it's been a minute. I mean, we knew Tyler Warren was going to be a part of this offense, but I mean, is it time to kind of recalibrate what we think of him? Because I thought he was going to be good, but I think personally it's time for me to kind of change my season-long projections on what the production from him is going to be this year.
I mean, that was just amazing, man. What I was most impressed with Tyler is just he never looked rushed, right? Never looked rushed out there on the field. And in your first game in the NFL, your adrenaline's through the roof, right? And he never rushed anything. He was patient in his routes, and he was quarterback friendly in all his routes. And I say that in the sense of, there was a 3rd down and 10 where they brought pressure to his side and dropped a DN out, and there was no panic in his route. He just kind of hooked around that DN and became efficient, and that led to the 4th and 2 that we just talked about where we converted with Josh Downs.
Right.
But it's just he never looked rushed, and when they were hitting him on the little corner pump, wheel route, whatever you want to call it, he sailed the route right and knew that he had to get to the right spot because of the zone coverage, right? He just never looked rushed, and I thought that was the most impressive thing I saw, from a rookie tight end in his first game.
Yeah, I mean, Sunday didn't look like his first game. It looked like his 60th game in the NFL. Why do you think that is for him? I mean, he played in a pro-style offense at Penn State, but there's got to be something else that leads to his poise and his football IQ.
Yeah, it's in between the ears. I don't know. He's got the mental toughness. He's got the fortitude. He's just a tough, old-school player, and that's why I'm so in love with him, right? And the way he plays, and it's just I couldn't get over how he didn't look rushed and wasn't trying. He was just trying to be himself, right? He wasn't trying to do too much. You got the pressure of being a first-round pick,
right,
and all these expectations, and he just looked so calm and poised. And it was like you said. I think our expectations for him, maybe just went up another step, right? And I think Daniel has found a guy that he can rely on in the middle of the field.
Well, I mean, he had 7 catches. The leading receiver from a tight end standpoint last year for the Colts in terms of catches for a season was Kylan Granson. He had 14. He's already halfway there. All right,
that's a crazy stat.
But I mean, I want to go back to something that you just said: the poise, the comfort in which he just understands the game. It's already kind of slowing down for him a little bit. As a tight end, how long does that generally take for you to look that smooth on tape?
Yeah, you don't see it in rookie tight ends. You really don't. And there's a lot on his plate. He's not just a receiving tight end. I saw him out there blocking and blocking well.
Yeah.
And he was getting after guys in the run game, which I love to see. And, you just don't see – there's just so much on his plate. We saw him line up at wide receiver. We saw him get a handoff, right? We saw him motion a lot pre-snap.
Right.
There's a lot on his plate, but to look calm and be poised is just such a credit to him as a person and as a football player.
You know, when Warren's on the field, to your point, like you just said, it's almost like you got another receiver. And when the Colts go 2 tight ends, he's a willing blocker. He's very physical. He's going to get after you. He can hold his own in that part of the game, in the run game offensively. So when you go 2 tight ends, you can run the ball with he and Mo Alley-Cox. But it's also, when you go 2 tight ends, it's like having 3 receivers on the field. What the hell is the defense supposed to do, Jack?
Yeah, what are you going to do? You know, and Miami went, you know, we'll get into this a little bit, I guess. They went base defense against our 12 personnel, which means they had their normal base, you know, they run a 3-4 more so it's the 3 down linemen, 4 backers, right? And when you get the base defense, now we can attack them in the pass game, right? We're going to get Tyler on linebackers, right, and matched up in the pass game. Versus if a team goes nickel, okay, we can block too, right?
Yeah.
So let's give the ball to Jonathan Taylor and get the run game going. So I don't know what you do, all right? I would not want to play the Colts as a defensive coordinator and trying to figure out how to handle their 12 personnel.
It's so exciting. I mean, with all that versatility, we saw him line up as the H-back, kind of an offset H-back, cram it upfield on a fullback dive. I think it was 3rd and 1, get a first down. What do you think is left in the bag? I mean, I don't want you to give anything away from Shane Steichen, but what's left for Tyler Warren's usage in this offense?
I mean, we saw him line up everywhere. I think that's just what we're going to continue to see, right, and how we can scheme that up. I loved when he got back in that, you know, we talked about that H-back and motioning back.
Yeah.
And he put his hand down. I love that. You know, put his hand down at a 3-point stance. He looked like a true fullback back there. And then to get the first down and some, you know, he got a couple extra yards too.
Right.
So running right behind Q, which is a good idea. But I think it's just we'll see a lot more. I think again in the red zone. I think that's where we can get really multiple with him and just having specific plays for him in the red zone. And the weeks come up and something new every week. I think that's where we'll start to see the bag kind of grow.
Yeah, he looks like just such a dude out there. You know, he's got the long hair, the free-flowing hair, the locks and everything. And I said, he's a guy that could flourish in 1975, like you said, stick your hand in the ground and let's cram it up in the middle, or 2025 because of his high football IQ, getting into soft spots in the zone, his athleticism, run after the catch, man, he can do it all. Speaking of throwback, it was a throwback performance by this Colts defense, all right? I mean, what they did to the Dolphins, 211 yards of offense allowed, and a lot of that came in crunch time. Or at least some of it did, right? Yeah. You know, when the game was in hand, and here comes Zach Wilson playing quarterback towards the end. But the Colts come away with 3 takeaways. They come home with 3 sacks, 6 quarterback hits. The Colts were +3 in the turnover margin, 17 points off of takeaways from the defense. I mean, Miami had only 43 yards of offense there in the first half. Tua had statistically one of his worst games in the NFL in terms of QBR, passer rating. I mean, you name it, the Colts were able to rattle him. When you went back and watched the film, what stood out to you about Lou Anarumo's debut with the Colts?
I mean, the guys were just flying around, right? You could tell they were feeding off the energy of Lucas Oil and feeding off the fans. And then the early turnovers were just huge, right? To build confidence in those guys and the Bynum pick, and then Kenny Moore just being Kenny Moore. It's not a game without a Kenny Moore sack, right? Kenny Moore with the strip sack. Man, how fun was that to just get him going? Yeah, I remember seeing at one point it was like Colts had ran 47 plays and the Dolphins had only ran 21. And it's just like that's just dominance, man, and that comes from the turnovers, right? And what I saw is I saw them confusing Tua a little bit, right? And the way they were being multiple and you know having all those DBs out there, you know, changing, you know, showing a man, dropping the zone, showing zone, going man, you know, they were very multiple in their scheme and how they attacked, and that's a credit to the players, right, and being able to handle all that and execute it the right way.
Do you notice those things when you're a tight end? Do you notice the, you know, sort of the bluff nature of the secondary and how tough it is, not only for you to interpret, but then you're thinking, all right, what's this quarterback thinking? Because we got to be on the same page in terms of what we're seeing and how we break off routes and you know what pockets of the defense we're trying to attack.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel that. You feel that in your route, and it's just a tick of, oh wait,
uncertainty.
Crap, it's this. You know, crap, it's this. You know, I thought it was this. You know, and the quarterback's feeling that too, and it makes them hold it for another second. lets the D-line
and that's all the defense needs.
That's all
right?
the defense needs to get in there, right? And just making them hold. It's just a tick, right? If you can get that tick, man, it's going to really be an advantage for the defense.
Yeah, we saw blitzing secondary players. We saw defensive ends dropping into coverage with
the
a lot to
pick,
interception. I mean, we saw a changing of defensive fronts based on down and distance and time of the game and things like that. How much more variance do you think we're going to see on a week-to-week basis from Lou Anarumo?
It's going to grow, man. That was week 1. I can't wait to see how much it grows. And, again, it's a credit to Coach Lou and trusting his players to be multiple in his schemes. And then the players got to go out there and execute it, right? And so we have to have a high IQ guys in the back end and be able to handle it. And I just think guys like Kenny Moore, I know Kenny can handle it. And the way Kenny can, I can't believe teams – sorry, I'll get on my Kenny Moore because that's my guy.
Do it.
Like, why would anyone ever throw a bubble screen at Kenny Moore anymore? Like, no one can block him. I had no chance of blocking him in practice, right, trying to do it. But I can't believe people still do that. But, it's just great to see, those guys have success and get that week 1 win, man. I was so happy for those guys.
Yeah, Kenny Moore has, I think, the second most sacks among defensive backs since 2018. He's now got 11. And when he's out there trying to get off a block and make a tackle on the outside, trying to get off a block to make a tackle on a screen, he does look like a defensive end. He's like swimming through guys and he's ripping the arms. Why is he so hard to block?
I don't know.
He's just kind of small and shifty.
Yeah, but he's strong, man. He's strong. Like don't let that size. He's got long arms and he's strong. He'll put that right hand right into your chest, man, and
stick it.
And long arm you because you'll be trying to dance with him, right?
Like Robert Mathis.
I got him, then boom, here comes the long arm. Yeah, he's. I don't know why any team would ever throw a bubble screen at Kenny Moore anymore. Sorry, I hope they keep throwing them at you, Kenny, so you can keep blowing them up. But it's amazing that people haven't seen enough of that on film to not do it. Should be a check out of that play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned the rattling of Tua, and I think that to me is a layer of why I'm so excited. Is not only did the defense kick the rear end of the Dolphins on offense, but they did it against a bona fide quarterback, and that's something. Not to take anything away from the defense in years past, but they had their moments. But typically it was against, a backup or a guy that's, making a spot start. I mean, to do it against a legitimate quarterback. We talked about last week, all the stats on Tua. I mean, one of the highest completion percentage guys. He gets the ball out fast. And to do it against a guy like that, to kind of rattle him, in his 6th or 7th year, I thought was really important to kind of set the tone for the Colts, to give them a lot of confidence on that side of the ball, to say, hey, we can do it against the game's best.
Yeah, confidence, right? Confidence it's infectious as defense, right? And they all feel that, right? And they're feeling exactly what we're talking about, Matt, and throwing off a guy with a high completion percentage and making him take that tick, right, and confusing him, right? So let's keep being multiple in our schemes. Let's keep playing fast, and we'll continue to have success.
And you do it right out of the gate. Like, there was no learning curve, it didn't appear,
No.
or no growing pains in this Lou Anarumo defense for the first time, especially when you have so many guys playing in it for the first time, right? It's not like it's just a bunch of guys who came over from the Bengals and now they're doing it in a different spot.
Right.
I mean, you got Zaire Franklin and Kenny Moore and Cam Bynum and Jarvarius Ward all playing in this system for the first time, and it looks like they're humming, like it's middle of the season.
Yeah, that's a credit to the players, right, and doing the preparation, right, and doing the work. And I'm sure they're doing a lot of walkthroughs, and Coach Lou's getting them ready, and their position coaches are getting them ready, and they're probably challenge him, hey, we want more, right, because they see the success that he can have.
Yeah.
And that's just a credit to the players, wanting to do well and wanting to help the team.
How much of the success of the defense is going to be based on the experience, the knowledge, and just the playmaking ability of the secondary? I mean, I know it's yin and yang,
right?
But I mean, does it really not work unless you have guys in the back end that can pull off the bluffing, if you will, pre-snap in terms of the secondary?
Yeah, like you said, it's yin and yang, but this is 2025 NFL where people want to throw the ball, right? And just making that quarterback take that tick, right? And you say if we're getting pressure like crazy, he's trying to get it out fast. That's an advantage. The DBs are going to feast on that, right? And then the DBs being multiple in their presentation and making that quarterback just take that extra hesitation, right? Now we got DeForest, we got the D lineman coming after him, right? And now we're going to get the sacks and things like that. So it is very much yin and yang. That's what makes football so great, because it's an ultimate team game, right? And I think the defense can keep they're hyping each other up, right? I'm sure they know, right?
Yeah.
They know we're gonna feast. If one's doing well, the other one's gonna do well too. So I just can't wait to see how the scheme grows.
Yeah, no question about it. Well, if you go back and you look at the totality of Sunday, I mean, it was great, 33-8. It was probably the closest thing to perfection that you're going to get in a Week 1 game in the NFL. But you go back and you watch the film, and you're critical, just like everybody else. They're chasing perfection, so there are some things to clean up, believe it or not. So we'll talk about the nitpicks here.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of a leak or two in kick coverage, you had some injuries. Jalen Jones comes up with a hamstring injury. It's the same hamstring that he was kind of saddled with all of training camp in the preseason, so that's not good. Don't know about his availability. Charvarius Ward, as we sit here and talk now, is still in the concussion protocol. He reported some symptoms after the game, came in on Monday and said, hey, there's something going on here, so he's in the protocol. Defensively, the Dolphins didn't try to run a lot because they were down big on the scoreboard for most of that game. Only ran for 72 yards, but they were over 6 yards per carry, so you got to clean that up. Anything else in terms of, things that need to be cleaned up to have ultimate team success going forward?
Yeah, and like you said, Matt, we're nitpicking, right? Yeah. It was like you said, close to perfection.
You're getting out the microscope,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to find much more than what you just said, right? I think, you don't like that 6 yards per carry, right? As far as a run defense goes, and a couple penalties here and there, but we were definitely the more disciplined team, going into that game or coming out of that game, and it's tough to find something more than that. But I think, and that's also a challenge that we talked about being multiple defensively. I think that's something that can be a challenge in the run game when you're trying to be multiple. Sometimes it's tough to find your gap, right, and where you're responsible for as a defensive player.
Right.
So that's going to be a challenge for those guys. If we can continue to be multiple in the way we're showing things, we still got to stop the run, right? So that's something that I know they're honing in on for this upcoming week.
They always say, they being football people.
Yeah, football guys.
Football guys, coaches and players. I mean, I always heard this growing up. I mean, I'm sure you heard it at Cathedral. I heard it at Roncalli growing up in high school. They always say, hey, guys, don't worry. We're going to make huge strides from game 1 to game 2. The biggest improvement that any football team makes throughout the course of a season is the big jump from game 1 to game 2. Well, I mean, you went by 25 points in week 1. What is going on? What do you expect for game 2 in terms of improvement?
Yeah, there's not much more you can improve on, right? I don't know. But
that's what makes it so exciting.
That's what makes it so much fun, and just continue to be efficient, right? Because there's going to be different challenges, right? And the way a team tries to counter what you're doing, right? So let's continue to get in the right plays, right? That's going to be huge, and I think Daniel's going to do a great job of that.
Yeah.
And putting us in positions to be successful, right? And we'll get Jonathan Taylor going. We still have more. We still have more to give.
No doubt.
We really do. As much as it was, close to perfection and scoring every offensive possession, we have more to give, and that's what the coaches are telling the guys this week.
Well, to wrap up here, talk about the dealing with success, because this Colts team, as you know, has been close, and they're off to a tremendous start, but it's still only one game, right? They missed the playoffs 4 years in a row. But in 3 of those 4 years, they've won at least 8 games. So they're just trying to bang this door down. So they're off to a tremendous start, setting the tone. They kind of sent a statement, I should say, to the rest of the league. So in the past, the Colts, it's been tough to deal with failure. But now you're dealing with a little bit of success. Now you're dealing with a little bit of hype and some momentum, and people in the community are hyping them up. Social media is what it is. How much more difficult, as a former player, how much more difficult is it to deal with success than it is failure? What are the separate challenges with that?
Yeah, it is a separate challenge, and I believe it is more challenging, right? So you got to go into, we used to always say, speaking of Cathedral, we used to always have a coach say, go into your cave, right? You can't listen to the outside noise,
there
right?
You
got to go into your cave and just worry about your preparation for the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think they, if they can go, block out the outside noise, feed off the energy of the fans when you're in there on Sundays, but let's block it out for the week and let's just get into our routine, right? That's now we're in our comfort zone of playing in the season. You get your routine going for the week, right? And that's where guys feel comfortable, right? And locking in and getting ready for this next game.
Do players feel that, though? Do players feel the optimism from the community, whether you're, I don't know, in the pickup line at school and people are patting you on the back, or you're in the grocery store or whatever? Do I mean, people say all the time, we don't read our press clippings. How true is that?
Yeah, they read them. They read them. But, you see it, right? It's impossible to just be like, oh, I'm not going to turn my TV on, or, I'm not going to, it's impossible not to see some of it, right? Not to see some of it. So it is a challenge, right? But I think once you get back in around the guys, right, and you're in the Wednesday practice and you're grinding through a practice and grinding through a week, getting ready for a game, you kind of forget about it. And that's a good thing, right? And you just get focused on, what's important and what you got to do.
I've heard it called before the warm and fuzzies.
Yeah.
We got to black out. We got to stalk out the warm and fuzzies. Is there a guy, maybe when you played, like a leader inside the locker room that was like captain like complacency? I am not going to let this team get complacent, and I'm not going to let it rely on what we did last week, because as of right now, that don't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. The first one that comes to mind, Andrew. Andrew was such a great leader, right? He didn't ever let us, get too high.
What did that look like, though? I mean, he's not like throwing tables and stuff.
No,
right?
none of that. But just making sure you're locked in. He would challenge you, right? Wednesday meeting, boom, he's rattling off a question, right? To make sure you're locked in on the meeting, right? He'd shout out something and say, hey, what would you do if they did this? And keeping guys sharp. And I think we have great leaders in the locker room right now who will do the same thing, and making sure guys are locked in, ready to go, and doing what they need to do in preparation for the next game.
I do want to ask you this, because you have a good pulse on the rest of the league here. I want to pose this to you, true or false. Weeks 1 and 2, they are must-wins for the Colts, because they're at home, but they're also against two teams that are in the AFC, against two teams that, as of right now on paper, a lot of people think are going to be kind of competing for those playoff spots. Those 3 wild card positions in these head-to-head meetings are going to carry a lot of weight. You buy that?
I hate the word must win, unless it's, playoff.
Week 18.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But they're huge, man. They really are. And I think guys do know that, right? And I don't know if Shane's mentioned it to guys like, hey, these AFC games mean a little more, right? We get, obviously it's easy to think
and
about.
It's tough because it's week 1, week 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're not thinking about December, January yet. But they're huge games. It's almost, you always felt it through division games, but the AFC games are not much different, especially when you're going against teams, like you said, who will be pushing for those playoff spots. You want that head-to-head tiebreaker, right, when it comes down to it. So they're very big games, and it's fun to have big games early in the season, right? And hopefully guys can feed off that, energy, right, to keep this thing rolling the right way.
No doubt about it. That's a good, fun conversation right there, talking about and recapping the Colts' big win over the Miami Dolphins. Jack Doyle, I'm Matt Taylor. We always wrap up. We did this last week to kind of wrap up the show, and I think we had some fun with it, so we'll continue to do it here. Wrapping up with a little fun segment we called You Don't Know Jack, all right? Kind of play on words right there. Let's get to know Jack Doyle a little bit better from a personality standpoint. We knew him as number 84. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, Mr. Colt for 9 years. But let's get him know him a little bit better outside of that helmet. So, Jack, question for you. What's your favorite date night spot, I should say, in Indianapolis? And would you ever take, I know you're a married fella, happily married, great family, but would you ever hypothetically take someone to a Colts game for a first date? How would that go?
That's great. So, Casey and I's date spots, let's see here. So our go-to, you can't go wrong with any steakhouse on the north side of Indy. That's where we live, on the north side of Indy. So you can't go wrong with any of those. We're big Harry and Izzy people, they take good care of us over there. It's hard, man. The shrimp cocktail, I'm
St. Elmo umbrella.
I'm a sucker to it, man. It's
You can handle it?
Oh, I love it.
Really?
I love it. And I'm not going crazy, just a little bit here and there.
I could never touch it.
Oh, I love it. It's great, clear the sinuses, get ready, wake you up a little bit. So we love that. Any steakhouse, and I don't know, to the second part of the question, I don't know if I should be giving dating advice to anybody. Casey and I's first date was at Wendy's in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
the Baconator.
The Baconator. I think she got chili.
You went big. I'm not gonna lie.
I had big red dollars, is what they were called. So I had, my scholarship provided money to certain places. So Wendy's was the choice.
Hey, babe. What do you think?
What do you think about Wendy's? So I don't know.
Get anything you want.
Get anything you want. But you can't go wrong going to a Colts game, right? You can't be wrong going to a Colts game. But Yeah, I was Mr. Big Spender back in the day.
Yeah, you were.
She's still with me. So
hey, it worked.
It worked pretty good.
Congratulations. Yeah. All is well that ends well right there. Mr. Wendy's himself, Jack Doyle, he hit the dollar menu so that the day could go big and get a combo. Yeah, go ahead and get the big fry.
Yeah, and she got a chili. I'm still disappointed in her. Now she has no problem getting the Frosty and all that fun stuff. But back then, early dating, she's like, I didn't want to, be smashing a Baconator in front of you. So she had to go with the chili.
Oh, yeah. You got to play that dating scene. Absolutely, man. That's good stuff. You don't know Jack. We're going to do that to wrap up the podcast every week. This is installment number 2. We had some fun, man. Colts big winners over the Dolphins. 33-8 coming up week 2. The Denver Broncos. The Colts fell to them last year, looking some for revenge at Lucas Oil Stadium early on in the season. We will be back next week, week number 3, talking about Colts and Titans with Jack Doyle. I'm Matt Taylor. Thanks for listening to the podcast here on the Colts Podcast channel, on Colts.com, the Colts mobile app, and wherever you download your podcasts.